With this from Mike Garafolo, who said yesterday on the NFL Network that the Jets are one of the teams to do their homework on Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa. Tua is expected to be released in the coming days, barring a miracle of Miami finding a taker in a trade. So we know Kyler Murray will be released. Tua will be released. Let's start with Tua because this is the latest here. If you're the Jets, do you sign Tua?
No. I'm in a position right now, transition phase. I need to build from the ground up. And even if it's obviously, if you sign him, he's going to be one of 3 in a quarterback room. We know this, one of 4 in the summer. But even still, the percentage that he has played in his career, it's just not worth it for me. I don't care what the salary is. You got to have guys you can count on. And him being one of the top 2 options, no thanks. I'll avoid it at all costs.
I just don't see how Tua would be a good fit. He's been dealing with so many injuries in his career. We know about his record in cold weather. We know about the fact that when you just watch him, how much of his performance is directly related to the fact he's had one of the best offensive coaches in the league the last few years. He's had some of the best weapons in the league the last few years. And I just don't think he fits what the Jets need. I think Tua needs to go to a team where he's either a high-end backup or he's going to a team that plays indoors or has a schedule that predominantly plays teams in good weather or has a lot of teams that have domes. Like if he was the backup to Jared Goff, let's say, something like that, or the backup to Matthew Stafford. Yeah.
Go to the Chargers.
That makes some sense with McDaniel, obviously, as the OC, but I don't know what their relationship was like towards the end when they benched him. But, to your point, I just don't think Tua fits. I think if you want to argue Kyler Murray, you want to argue Derek Carr, I think those are more valid arguments than Tua, given his injury history and given it's not a small sample size. His record in cold weather is a real thing. And when you're the Jets who play in the Northeast, it just doesn't make any sense.
Not even think about the cold weather factor, and that's huge. It's massive. And to your point with the play calling, name a more mechanical-esque quarterback than Tua in the last half decade. Meaning he's one of 11 more so than the quarterback in Miami under McDaniel. It's timing. It's intent. It very rarely is he doing full progressions. It's 3-step. It's in and out. So that just ramps up the question marks.
Ton of question marks. And ultimately, if you're looking at the situation that the Jets find themselves in, you almost need 2 quarterbacks because you don't know what the draft is going to hold. So you go to Tua. If he's competing with someone, I guess you have to consider it given how bleak the other options are. But to me, it just doesn't make sense. I feel like this would be a poor decision by the Jets to bring in Tua. I could get behind Kyler Murray under the right circumstances. We'll talk about that coming up. But I can't get behind Tua. I've seen too much of him struggle in the cold. I've seen his injury history. To me, it doesn't make sense, honestly. Unless your goal is to be picking in the top 5, sign Tua and have no backup plan behind him. All right, congratulations. The New York Jets are solidified in the top 5 of the draft next year.
Yeah, look, we don't even have to overcomplicate it. He doesn't play. He doesn't play football enough. And look, I'm not trying to hammer him specifically. It is what it is. He had some bad luck in terms of the concussions. We all saw it. A couple of the hits were brutal to watch. The after effects, I should say. The hits are a different story. The NFL selling big hits in the 90s with NFL rocks and stuff. But I need a guy who's going to be able to play. I can't have that hanging over my head. I just can't.
DT, let's talk free agency. Legal tampering is Monday at noon. That's when the Jets can officially start negotiating contracts with players. Those deals can't become official till Wednesday, which is why it's called legal tampering, but it's essentially free agency starting Monday is how anyone, logically look at it. From a Jet standpoint, given the resources we know they have and the needs they have, what's the biggest thing you're looking at on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? How aggressive are the Jets going to be? And are they going to look for the big splash, or are they going to be trying to spread out the money and sign a bunch of different players?
I hope that it's the latter, right? I think that you can go big game hunting once or twice in free agency and take your larger swings, right? I don't think they took many large swings last year. Jamie and Sherwood was probably the biggest swing. Justin Fields, a quarterback, obviously the number is going to be inflated, but what he came in as like the lowest non-rookie starting quarterback, I don't necessarily consider that big game hunting. And then Brandon Stevens got a solid contract. So I would hope for more of like the Brandon Steven, Jamie and Sherwood route. And my biggest focus point right now is the defense, whether it's the defensive line or the safety position. I feel like there's tons of safeties on the free agent market, and more just like every time you relook at the list, there's like another name that you missed the first time. You're like, oh, this guy's also available as an unrestricted free agent at safety. Cool. Let's double up at free agent safeties and then eliminate that need completely going into the draft. Now, defensive line, again, we're going under this makeshift, or not makeshift, but construction to 4-3 to 3-4. Go get as many defensive linemen as you want. I won't care. I will never be mad at depth at D-line and wide receiver. You can probably attack wide receiver in free agency too, but specifically defensive line, whether it's Kwity Paye, Javon Hargrave. I know Jonathan Allen just was told he'll be released. Leonard Floyd, right? There's so many names out there that I think that they can attack the defensive line or safety in free agency and come away with some really strong names without having to spend $20 million per season. Like if you can get Leonard Floyd for $10 to $12 million on a 1-year deal, I would absolutely love that. And then you add him into the rotation of Will McDonald, whoever you're going to pick at 2, whether that's Reese, Bailey, Bain, and then you have a strong 3-man rotation at edge. And then on the inside, I did a mock-off season. I added Javon Hargrave and Kwity Paye, and I was like, okay, I feel really solid about that 6, 7, 8-man rotation on the defensive line. And now let's actually go get after the quarterback, because creating pressure is going to create turnovers eventually. So the back and the front end have to work together. You start in the trenches and work your way back, in my opinion.
Which players will the Jets target? I think it's safe to say that if you remove quarterback, there's a lot of different areas where they could go. Rich Cimini wrote over the weekend that among the players the Jets are considering include safeties Byron Cook of the Chiefs, Nick Cross of the Colts, Alex Anzalone, the linebacker from the Lions, and defensive end Al Quandon Muhammad from the Lions. That's according to those familiar with the Jets thinking. So those are 4 names right there. Any of those names intrigue you? I mean, I feel like we've talked about Anzalone a lot on all our shows because it's been out there for a while. But how about the safety market? Because those names are intriguing. Nick Cross certainly intrigues me. And I look at the Jets, if they're going to make a big splash, why not spend big money at the top of the market and get a guy like Cam Curl and just say, let's get the best safety we can to that room?
Yeah, no, 100% I'm with you. The both safety names I'm down with. I would prefer Cam Curl and Brian Cook. That would be the duo. I did a mock-off season on my channel, and those
you were mocking off?
I was rocking out with my mock out. Shout out Ricky New York. And I doubled up at free agent safety, and I didn't take one in the draft. But yeah, you get me Cam Curl and Brian Cook as your safeties, and then you have Malachi Moore in as your rotational third safety / backup nickel or dime cornerback when you want to go with 4 or 6 DBs on the field. And then you can add a day 3 safety in the draft. And I feel really solid about that. I was never more wrong about my prediction that Salah's regime was going to care about the safety position. And then they proceeded to trot out Tony Adams and like league minimum type players for the longest time. So that would be my hope, is that they go after the safety position pretty hard. And Nick Cross, to Rich Cimini's tweet, I like Nick Cross. He has familiarity and crossover, no pun intended, with Frank Reich from Indianapolis. So yeah, he's a guy that I don't think is going to break the bank, right? Or you can, there you go. Or you can trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick or Jesse Bates, right? And not have to give up a ton, right? A 5th round pick, and you can possibly get one of those guys. So I feel like the safety market is the one that they need to be very active in outside of defensive line.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, we're talking Jets free agent targets. A lot of names have been speculated on. What will the Jets actually do in terms of free agency? How about the name Demario Davis? That name came out last week. The Jets apparently interested in a 3rd tour of duty for Demario Davis. Look, if we're talking Anzalone, don't we have to talk Davis? He also has Glenn overlap. And he's still good. I know he's old, but like, again, if you're looking for a veteran to kind of be a leader and show the younger guys on this team, what to do. Like Demario Davis teaching Arvell Reese is not the worst thing in the world.
No, I'm starting to think that you watched my mock off-season episode because Demario Davis was the guy that I picked. I feel like even though he is a couple years older than Anzalone, I feel like it makes more sense, right? He has familiarity with the organization. He's been a player. I think you even said it on your show earlier today with Robby. Once he got into his 30s, the All-Pros and Pro Bowls started stacking up for this guy.
He got better after he turned 30.
Yeah, he's aging like fine wine. So, I don't want to like ruin his late season or late career by bringing him back to the Jets for a third time. But he's like one of those players that's almost like Jets proof because he's been here twice and he's actually done a good job both times. I can't believe that they traded Calvin Pryor for Demario Davis straight up with the Cleveland Browns and then let him go again. Like DD is one of my favorite Jets of all time, which makes no sense because like it's been so weird for his career with the Jets, but I've always followed him throughout. Like I don't follow a lot of athletes directly on social media. I just keep them in like little lists. Like the Jets always have like all the players in like a specific Twitter list. So I don't directly follow them because then you have to unfollow them when they go somewhere else and you don't want to do all that. But Demario Davis is somebody who I followed forever. And it's like 11 or 12 seasons in the league for him. And like, he's literally fine wine. He only gets better.
He really is a good player. So again, it sounds crazy to say, oh, they're going to sign, a 37-year-old, but I mean, he's still playing at a high level. So
I think he's better than Alex Anzalone, honestly.
He might be. Yeah, you certainly can argue that. Some other free agent targets here. I've heard this name from a couple different people when I was down in Indy. Leo Chanel, the linebacker of the Kansas City Chiefs, possible target for the Jets at linebacker. He's only 25 years old. He's graded consistently well since he's entered the league. Strong run defender. He's 6'3", 250 pounds. So I think he's a fit size-wise to the 3-4 defense the Jets are deploying. Your thoughts on Chanel as an option in free agency?
Yeah, this is one of the bigger name free agents that you should try to pursue, in my opinion. It's absolutely a position of need. You can work out what you're doing with Jamie and Sherwood. You can probably move him to the will linebacker. I know some people think he should still be the Mike. I know our guy Black Gypsy says he should move back to safety. As long as you get a linebacker, you can, have flexibility with Sherwood. But a guy like Chanel at 25 years old is still an ascending player. Like you said, the size, 6'3", 250 plus, like that's screams a prototypical 3-4 linebacker. How much are they going to be in 3-4? That's fine, but he can also be your nickel linebacker as well. So I'm really excited to see how many big name targets they go after. And I think Chanel would be at the top of my list.
Chanel would be number one. Wow.
Not maybe not number one. I'd have to look at like the entirety of the list, but I've been so operating in the B to C tier free agency that I don't want to look at all of like Jalen Phillips is another name that I think is like a fringe A tier free agent, where if the Jets signed him at edge rusher instead of a Leonard Floyd and it's a little bit more money and financial commitment, I'd be totally okay with that too. Like go get guys at premium positions. I understand Chanel's not a premium position, but yeah, he would probably be in the top 3 to 5 of like my preferred free agent targets.
All right, let's talk receiver. Everyone's going to talk about Alec Pierce, assuming he's available. How about Romeo Doubs? That's a guy, I haven't heard that the Jets are in on him by any means, but I like him a lot. I think he'd be a good fit. Your thoughts on Doubs as a receiving option they could bring in?
I think you got to go all the way back to Senior Bowl 2022 or 2023 when he was there and Christian Watson was there, and the Packers ended up drafting both of them. And I told anybody that would listen that Romeo Doubs was better than Christian Watson. I'd say 80% of that came true, right? If Christian Watson was healthy, maybe he's the better wide receiver and he has a more diverse skill set. But Romeo Doubs, man, you can play him in the slot. You can play him on the boundary. He's probably more of a Z, like he's closer to Garrett Wilson than he is to A.D. Mitchell. His route running and separation is really solid. I don't think he's going to command a ton of money. The only teams that I'm looking at that might potentially get him instead of the Jets would be wherever Malik Willis goes. Like if he ends up in Arizona, Malik Willis, I'm saying, I don't know if Romeo Doubs is going to follow him to Arizona because they already have a lot of mouths to feed with Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, and Trey McBride. But if Malik Willis ends up in like Miami, I think Romeo Doubs could follow him and work back with the quarterback that he has a lot of familiarity with. If the Jets are not interested in Romeo Doubs, I would be really upset. You need a wide receiver 2/3. He's that perfect fit. They didn't pick up Mechie's tender, his exclusive rights tender. They have till next week to do it. I don't think they're gonna. And that's an upgrade, immediate upgrade. And then your 11 personnel with Garrett, Dobbs, and AD looks pretty solid. And it doesn't, preclude you from taking one at 33 or 44. Like if Jeremy Bernard is there from Alabama at pick 44, I would totally do that. And then you have a really good top 4. And then you have Isaiah Williams too, who's going to have a role. He's going to have a gadget role. And then Arian Smith. So yeah, Dobbs to me is a very high-end move, even though there's like Christian Kirk and Alec Pierce. I know Pickens got tagged, but maybe Pittman is on the move now too. So like Dobbs might be that like under the radar guy. And I know a lot of teams have probably talked about them as like, I want him on my team, but where does he line up in the pecking order of free agent wide receiver? Like Wan'Dale Robinson, I'd put him above Romeo Doubs too in terms of the contract he's going to command. So get Dobbs on like a steal or a value contract, and I think that would be the best way to go.
I just think he's a good fit for kind of what they need, and it doesn't stop you from then, if the board falls your way, still taking the premium player receiver at 16, or as you talked about, some options at 33 and 44. It's a good receiving class in the draft, as you know. So I think they could approach it like, let's just get someone so we feel better about our weapons, and then we are able to truly go BPA. And if a receiver lines up in that when we're picking, well, there we go. We're all set, but we don't need to reach for any receiver because we addressed it properly in free agency.
Yeah, 100%. And on the off chance that they don't prioritize free agent wide receiver, and I know this has kind of been thrown around a lot, and I'm kind of clinging on to it a little bit harder than I should, trade 44 for Brian Thomas Jr. If there is any rumblings that they don't like have a future for him in Jacksonville because they paid, why do I keep blanking on his name? Jacoby Myers. They have Parker Washington, Travis Hunter, who's only going to be a part-time wide receiver, but they don't pick until 56 in the draft because they gave up their first-round pick to go get Travis Hunter last year. If you can give them 44 and now they have 44 and 56 to deal with, they can go get their own wide receiver, and we get a wide receiver who's better than anybody, in my opinion, in this draft. So I don't know. I would love for them to get creative in that way and try to trade for a wide receiver, but yeah, go get a Romeo Doubs. And then if a Mekhi Lemon or Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson is there at 16, I would still do it. Like like I said before, wide receiver and D-line, get as much depth as you can. And who cares if eventually you have to get rid of a guy because your room is too crowded? I'd rather have more mouths to feed than footballs to go around than the opposite way, which we've had for 15 years.